Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to review Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 12. We are getting closer to Decision Day. We are doing a quick therapist review, emphasis on quick, especially with this episode because there wasn't much, but there was definitely some interesting things for us to discuss and ponder about. But before we get started, please subscribe to the channel, of course, like the video, and comment below, join in on the conversation, as these couples have definitely been in some interesting predicaments as they are getting closer to decision day. So let's jump right into it. We have Jasmina and Michael. Can you believe it? We have had 2 episodes in a row where it was pretty much smooth sailing. Okay, this is good. Now, I will say, the only thing that makes me a little hesitant, and maybe it is because of Jasmina, she spoke with her mother, and Michael was able to speak with his sister. We learned in that conversation that she said that she doesn't have any feelings for him, that she's not developing feelings for Michael. I just see a effort where he's pushing and pulling, he's being vulnerable, sharing his trauma with her. He is teaching her how to drive. I thought that was so thoughtful, and taking attention to it, eating doggy biscuits, which Michael, okay. But also cooking a meal for her. Now, granted, she has been cooking for the whole time, for the whole marriage, so he doesn't maybe get a brownie point with that, but he's going out of its way to show that he cares, and that's something to be noted. And even communicating where he has fallen short, saying, hey, points in this marriage where I felt like I was giving up, because it really sounds like for him, how she was showing up in the relationship was impacting how he was showing up in the relationship. And he was stating in that scene where he was cooking with her in the kitchen that he let that get in the way of him being and trying and giving his 100%. I see where she appreciates his gestures. I see where she takes note of it. I would like to see where she leans into him, and maybe she's waiting for the feelings to lean into him. I do feel like there's still walls there. There's still walls of protection there that she does have. And I don't know if it's because she's on national television, if she's not attracted to him. That's something that I did say in our last episode, that I really feel like potentially that is a factor, because she did say that the only thing that she was attracted to was his arms. I don't know if that's also playing a part in how she's showing up in this relationship, but I would see that it is. And it was interesting too, and I'll speak on it a little bit, on how Katina came to their apartment when she was tearful. And I was expecting Jasmina to maybe come closer to her or console her, rub her arm. And when she was crying and talking about I'm a human being and he treating me this way, I didn't see her lean even into her. So that was kind of an interesting thing for me to see on how Jasmina, maybe she's just she has a harder shell, and maybe she has a challenge of showing up vulnerably for someone else, or knowing how to comfort someone when they are expressing something that is of concern. I also thought it was interesting that when Michael was meeting with his sister and talking about his concerns about how he's not seeing how she is kind of meeting him, he also talked about how there hasn't been much movement in the physical touch department. And she did recommend that, to try to make some steps forward towards her and see if she meets him. A part of me was a little concerned about that, just because of her hard exterior. I'm curious if, because the physical touch boundary is so important, and needs to really be a conversation and discussion about consent and comfortability. A lot of physical touch can be almost like a triggering place for a lot of people. So I'm hoping that there can be a conversation about touch, and in a way that doesn't feel mechanical, but in a way that communicates for both of them to feel safe and that they're consenting to the touch. Again, it was also really sweet to see how Michael was taking such tender care and showing Jasmina how to drive. She really appreciated that, and they were able to joke with each other without taking things too seriously. It was really great to see that. We'll see how this continues to move forward as they meet the experts next week. Next, we have Olajuwon and Katina. So first, before I start, I wanted to kind of address last week's review, because some people did state that they felt like I was not hard enough on Olajuwon and how he showed up for Katina. I want to make sure I'm clear. The way he showed up for her was not okay. He overreacted. He embarrassed her in front of the cast members, and he was not thinking logically, right? And at the same time, how I utilize this discussion, this space, is for us to learn and to grow and kind of understand behavior and what could be motivating that behavior. And it's not to excuse the behavior; it's just to explain the behavior. Maybe hoping that someone who is like Olajuwon or like Katina can maybe understand what could potentially be happening. It's how we learn and grow. My goal is definitely not to talk negative about any cast member on any show that I review, or any person of that matter, because we're all human beings and we deserve that respect. So I want to make sure that that's clear. But I definitely do not agree and do not condone that behavior that Olajuwon exhibited last episode. My space is just coming from wanting to understand the behavior. And so with that, we see where Katina is very distraught. Olajuwon is very hurt, and from their perspective, right? So when we're coming from an emotional place, it's not always logical. And so Olajuwon's behavior is not logical in this moment, right? And so Michael's trying to help him get there by saying, hey, she did say that, this app was old on the phone, and did that sit with you? And he's like, well, she's a smart person. I don't understand why this is an issue. But it was great to see that they did resolve the issue. Part of me was really concerned about her apologizing to Olajuwon. While I do feel that if your partner, your spouse, or anyone for that matter feels like something you did hurt them, then acknowledging that is necessary. And at the same time, Olajuwon took it upon himself to go through the phone, and the app was there. It wasn't something that she was actively using, right? So that's the part that kind of doesn't sit well with me, but they were able to make some peace. He definitely apologized as well, so that's really what's most important. And I'm hoping to see like a changed behavior. What I'm noticing with Olajuwon, he really is trying to find validation from Katina, and that's not solely her responsibility. I believe that Olajuwon needs to be able to validate himself as well. And you see that he you saw this at the beginning, right at the beginning of him, saying that she was beautiful, and then, hey, do you like what you see? Like needing that reassurance. And he's always looking for reassurance, but the way he gets it is not okay. Where he is like forcing her to be vulnerable, or putting her in situations to see if she's going to get a response, to see if she truly cares about him, and gauging how she's responding to him, to get that, to make sure like she is caring about him. He talked about on the after party, like seeing her cry with Michael and Jasmina in the apartment, made him feel like, oh wow, yeah, like she really does care about me. And I said, Olajuwon, we don't need to put her through the ropes and to make her care about you. I'm hoping that the experts will get to this. They, in the episodes, it's difficult because they're so short. We don't really see the full coaching, but I'm really hoping that they get to this with Olajuwon. It was also great to hear on the after party that his mother told him that if you can't cook, then don't be expecting her to cook. And I'm so grateful that he received that, and we didn't hear anything about that this episode. Next episode, he's going to get in trouble with Dr. Pepper, so, we'll see. One thing also I did notice as well is that Katina, she does so well. She does so well with showing patience with Olajuwon, managing her emotion, and even managing her words. And it will be so great so great for Olajuwon to match that energy. Now, he did state that he does have ADHD, and so that can be a challenge for people with that diagnosis, just because oftentimes, I'm not saying everyone with ADHD has this experiences this symptom, but sometimes the emotions that they feel can almost feel like it's overtaking them at times. It's hard to manage themselves while they're experiencing, very high emotions. So a part of how they take care of themselves is learning like distress tolerance skills, and learning how to take a beat and wait to have a conversation and process the information fully with their logical mind and their emotional mind to make a decision on how they want to respond to it. So I'm hoping that Olajuwon will be able to grasp this skill so that he can be present for Katina as she is being present for him. Next, we have Noah and Steve. Oh, Noah and Steve. Okay. They were interesting this episode. Noah is really struggling with communicating directly with Steve. As we see right at the beginning of their segment, she comes in on a video of him sleeping in the middle of the day with Sushi in the bed. At least he is sleeping with Sushi in the bed. Remember, he was opposed to that at the beginning. But obviously, she's definitely not okay with this as she's working. And so he talked about really his expectations and how he's feeling like Noi has these expectations of him to be Sushi's main caregiver when Sushi's not his dog, and of cleaning and maintaining the apartment as well because she's working and he currently is not. He did disclose that he does have substantial savings, but that is kind of vague, and really, as we have said so many times, Steve Noy needs to know really what's in your bank account. She did say at the after party, as long as he had about $40,000, she would feel more secure. And at the same time, I hear her. I also am concerned about them building a family together with how Steve is approaching a job, as he said that he felt like he wasn't going to have time to focus on the creativity of building their future together, which I am confused. I am thoroughly confused. I don't know how you can build a future together. Any future that you build together is going to need finances. And so this is the type of world we live in, whether we like it or not. It is just a reality. And Steve wants children, Noi wants children, and so money is an issue. It was great for Sriracha to even kind of bring that to Noi, saying like, hey, normally you wouldn't date a guy who wasn't established. And of course Noi didn't have a say in Steve. She was married at first sight. And at the same time, I think so what Sriracha was trying to communicate is you need to have a more direct conversation with him. So that's the issue. Both of them are not communicating directly. They're not communicating directly at all. Regarding this matter, he's not communicating directly about his finances and what he's bringing to the table to bring some security for her. She is using snide remarks. She told him to kiss her when it came to taking on more chores and that the like. And I know she said at the after party that they were joking, but I sensed a lot of heat coming from that. And even in her confessional, she even explored that more, saying like she just really has a difficulty with taking on more chores or taking on any of them if he isn't working all day and he's just sleeping, and it's not sitting right with her. It's an issue. She's not feeling respected in the relationship. And it also seems like he is looking for her to lead the vision of the relationship, when really Noi is looking for Steve to have a plan. She's looking for him to have a plan financially, especially since he's choosing this lifestyle of self-employment. Self-employment doesn't equal no employment, especially if you consider building a family and retirement. And so I really, I really feel like there needs to be more communication, and especially when it comes to them living together after decision day. Noy saying she doesn't want to and not really communicating why that is, and Steve is trying to act clueless, but I really feel like he knows, because in his confessional he said, well, I hope it's not about the finances, because if it is, that's going to be a problem. And in my mind, I'm like, how do you not know that this isn't about the finances? But Noy said that she had a relationship where she moved to Boston and it didn't work out, and she doesn't want to sacrifice anymore and put herself in that position again. And I feel like that is definitely something that Steve needs to know. That's definitely something Steve needs to know. They need to communicate to each other, and they need to tell each other what they need from the other person. Steve needs to decide whether he's going to honor her request of working, decide that for him, or communicate what he has. Communicate his plans of what he has. I have this amount of money and I plan to work, 2 to 3 months out of the year and make this amount of money. She needs that for multiple reasons: for her past relationship, her traumatic upbringing of being a refugee. That's serious. That's serious business. And of course, we are in a world where everything costs money, and they are building a family and a life together. So communication. Noy, Steve, talk to each other, please. Thank you. Last, we have Lindsay and Mark. And you know what? I'm going to go a little deeper with Lindsay and Mark, because I really feel like what's happening between Lindsay and Mark, because what I really feel what's happening in their relationship and how they're communicating with each other is reflecting on their experiences and their upbringing, as it's happening with all the couples. But it's really, really obvious, very obvious, with Lindsay and Mark, specifically with Lindsay and her upbringing, as she has had a strained relationship with her mother, and they don't talk anymore. She has been criticized, and even on camera been criticized by her father. And I believe that she views criticism as rejection. Both of them are rejection, and she takes it in as shame, right? And so she works extra hard. She has a part of her that works extra hard, as you see, like she has these, she's meal prepping, she's got the structure, she's got, all these things, to working extra hard, these systems, to not receive criticism. And so Mark is not that way. Mark is not that way. He is a very kind of carefree guy. He's a carefree guy. He's a go with the flow. Yeah, I got my baseball cards, in some random place in my apartment, and yeah, that's where they are. He's just a very carefree guy. And so Lindsay, this part of her that is working so hard and making sure everything is together to avoid criticism, it offends her. And when she becomes verbally aggressive towards Mark, and saying that he's clueless, and you saw the video footage that they showed throughout the tape. Mark does not talk that way. He really tries to manage his words very carefully, while Lindsay has this very hard exterior to kind of she has this very hard exterior, as to say, like, words don't bother her, when actually she is very sensitive. Anything Mark does is viewed as a rejection. Anything he does or says, and any time he tries to vocalize any issue that's happening in their marriage, she shuts down and she blames him and points out how he isn't taking responsibility for his part in the relationship, when he's communicating something that he needs from her, or even just how they both are showing up together, and she's like, no, it's you. And so that's what's really the breakdown in this communication. Lindsay is hearing any critique at all as a form of rejection and a form of pulling back. And it doesn't help that Mark has a tendency to try to over respond and overcompensate, because he sees that she needs that validation constantly, and that she's seeking that from him, that he tries to provide that for her, and at the same time he isn't secure in his decision in this relationship because of the ebbs and flows that have been happening, that he is not communicating honestly with her. that continues the fireworks that happens between them two. So Lindsay is feeling unvalidated and feeling rejected constantly in this relationship. And Mark is constantly stressed and doesn't know how to show up for her in a way that's going to honor her and honor his truth at the same time. Because anytime he's truthful with her, she rejects it. And so I really truly feel that this relationship isn't going to be salvageable. But it'll be interesting to see what the experts say to Mark and Lindsay and what recommendations they have for them next episode. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please, of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let me know your thoughts. What are you thinking about Mark and Lindsay and this tug and pull and this cycle that they're in? What do you think it's going to take for Jasmina to lean into Michael as he is working to lean into her? What can help Olajuwon to validate himself so Katina doesn't have to constantly reassure him and carry that burden? And what would you do if you were Noy and you were in this situation? Or what would you do if you were Steve in this situation? Would you divulge your information? I mean, divulging your information on national television, that could be, that may be too much for him. What would you do if you were Noy? Would you trust the process, move into the apartment, or protect yourself? Let me know your thoughts. And as always, be cool, be calm, be centered.